Hi, and welcome to the Passion Project. I'm your host, Coach Richard Bacon. And as usual, I'm always delighted with all the guests that I've had on my show, but today is really, really special. Man, I get to sit here and chop it up. Actually, we're going to have two parts to this show. And today's show is concerning mental health, specifically coaches, athletes, but you can apply this to any walk of life too. So today, and the reason why I'm so excited, I have my best friend's daughter who I've known since she was a little girl. And now she is a licensed professional counselor. And you said that's a cute way of saying what?
A therapist.
A therapist, okay. So that kind of explains why we're in here on this couch. I'm gonna go ahead and kick my legs up here and get ready for this counseling on mental health. But I'm gonna let her explain and talk a little bit about herself and what she does. My guest, Umeka Wright.
As Coach Bacon said, I am Umeka Wright, a licensed professional counselor associate. Fancy way of saying, I'm a therapist. But at the end of the day, what I do is just make sure, I also provide coaching for athletes and coaches, athletic coaches. But I'm a mom as well, a mom of 6. My oldest is 25 and my youngest is 5. With that being said, being a former athlete myself,
yes, she was.
I have 4 athletes at the house. 2 of them ran track for Division I colleges on scholarships. I have 1 playing junior college basketball right now. Yes. And then I also have a high schooler playing varsity basketball. We'll see what the 5-year-old is going to do.
Oh, man. So, yeah, we got to get ready for him, boy.
I don't know.
Matter of fact, he may be on this show.
Yes, he think he is the basketball phenom. So with that being said, being a licensed professional counselor, also working in education, I serve as the employee wellness coordinator for Grand Prairie Independent School District. Fancy way of saying I provide staff wellness and counseling for our staff members. We always focus on the students, that's why we're in business. But at the end of the day, there will be no students without the teachers. So we can't take care of kids if we don't take care of the teachers first. And that's what I do in Grand Prairie Independent School District. But being a mom, I've seen just so many different walks of life when it comes to mental health, from my children running track and the recruiting process, and then my kids playing basketball. Just mentally, they all went through something different. So I wanted to just kind of specialize just a little bit on those athletes, because it's so much that goes into performance and their mental health. And that's why I do what I do.
Man, boy, that's a lot. Let me get real comfortable. let me get real comfortable in here. Normally we're in the big studio, but today I had a feeling I was going to have to lay back, put my head over here and get therapy. So this mental health thing, it's a real thing.
It's a thing.
Okay, so because I think in today's time, a lot of people hear mental health or think that when a person is not doing well or his performances are down, it's got to be something else going on. Or everybody says, we blame it on mental health. But it's a real thing, huh?
It is a real situation.
Tell me a little bit more about what makes it real.
Well, especially when it comes to athletes. Think about it. We put back in the day, and I'm going to say in the day because, mid-40s, that's back in my time. Our parents put us into sports as just an outlet. You go to school all day, you either go to church, on Sundays, but you need an outlet. You need some type of extracurricular activities. So they would put us in sports for fun. As time gone on, now we are training every day, practicing 2 or 3 times a day, and sometimes the fun is taken out of it. But when we're placing our kids in these sports, we forget that we're placing them on a stage to be scrutinized, to be picked at constantly, and then to be sometimes picked on or picked at by your parents. You hear from your coaches, you hear from your peers, your other teammates, and then you hear from your parents in the car. And then we say, but get out there and do your best. How can they do their best when they have all of this running around in their head? Their mind is cloudy. So we all know that everything is connected. So, when it comes to mental health, it's not just a scapegoat or I'm just trying to get out of working hard. Sometimes I really do have some things going on. My parents done got on to me this morning because I was late getting up. I maybe got to school late. I got a bad grade in class, or the teacher yelled at me. Now I show up to practice and now the coach yelled. I haven't had a moment to de-stress from what I just dealt with in the hallway, but now you want me to go out here and catch a ball, shoot the ball, hit the ball, or whatever you're asking me to do.
Do something with that ball.
Something.
I tell you what, boy, and don't even start adding in, but my girlfriend or my boyfriend.
Absolutely. Relationships.
Yeah.
And you have to remember, the brain doesn't fully develop until mid-20s. These are children that we're asking to make rational decisions. They're not going to make rational decisions. Sometimes as adults, we're not making rational decisions.
Right.
And we have a fully developed brain.
Right. You said something there a minute ago that brought, I almost teared up about it, because when my dad said it to me, I was like, he don't really know what he's talking about. But he told me this when I started coaching. He said, always keep it fun.
Mm-hmm. And I think you missed that. I remember saying to my son yesterday, have fun. And he teared up and he said, but it's not.
Right.
And
right.
My question is, now I'm a therapist. I'm not mama. I'm like, well, what's not making it fun?
Right.
And that's the hard part, because sometimes it's self not making it fun, the pressures that you're putting on yourself. But then sometimes it's things outside of your control that's not making it fun. So again, as the therapist, I gave him an activity called the circle of control. Mm-hmm. And it's just an activity with two circles, one in the center, and it says within my control, and then the outer circle says out of my control. And I had him list everything that's in his control and those things that's outside of his control. And that just helped him see that, I actually control more than what I think I control.
Right.
And so it helped kind of ground him and put him back where he needed to be, instead of focusing on what took place in the previous days.
Wow, that's awesome. Wish I would have had that piece when I was coaching. I could have used that one, boy.
I can share it with you to some of the people.
Well, I'm not coming back to coaching.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so. I think I'm gonna keep my feet up.
I like
this
that.
Right here. First talking point today is understanding the athlete's mindset. So I had a group of college athletes on a show, and every single one of them talked about mental health.
Absolutely.
Every single one from JUCO to Division I said that there were things in place for them regarding mental health.
Absolutely.
And my daughter, who plays at Virginia State University, they have mental health days.
I love it.
So once again, going back to my original thing, this thing is real.
It is. And I love that Virginia State have that, because you get more productive individuals by allowing them to just kind of regroup, relax, and refocus, versus just constantly keeping them going. So that mental health days, a lot of people should really look into that, maybe in school districts.
I don't think most people really realize how much mental health affects coaches, athletes, and so forth. So could you elaborate a little bit on some of the things coaches and athletes have to do? You kind of touched on some a minute ago, but.
And I do want to stick a pin in the coaches, because here we are, we have the adults that we feel you should be able to regulate your emotions. But just because we grown-ups, that don't mean that we, always are in a space to be able to regulate our emotions. And then you have coaches who may not have any peers that they can turn to, and sometimes they bottle things up and they don't go and talk to someone, or they don't think that they need to talk to someone. And then what happens? It trickles down, and then it affects your team. And then now your team is infected, and you're like, well, I don't really know what's going on. They're not listening. Well, they don't trust you at this point.
Right.
And you're not really trusting yourself, because you're not taking care of yourself mentally. We get a checkup for everything else. We go to the doctor annually. Athletes have to have a physical every year. We get our teeth cleaned every 6 months. But when it comes to our mental health and our brain, we want to wait until something is wrong before we'll actually go and sit down and talk to someone. Now it's so easy. After COVID-19, they've made it really easy for you. You can get therapy from your phone. You can get therapy from behind the screen. You don't even have to leave your house. We have some people that do it from their car. My daughter said, Mama, I take my lunch break and I go to my car and I finish my session. Because in our household, I preach to them. I am a therapist, but at the end of the day, they need to talk to somebody other than mama.
Right.
But we make sure that we are advocates, that they know you have to go and sit down with somebody. And I wish that coaches would also do the same when they get to that point where they are also struggling.
Wow. You know, at DeSoto, and I don't know if I was a little bit ahead of the game, but I addressed that with my coaches. And I also did it with the team. There'll be sometimes we'll shut down practice early, and then we're just going to talk.
I love that. We're
just going to talk about it's open. Any category, anything you want to talk about, we're going to talk about. I'm going to tell you this story because it was funny. So we go into our team room, and we said, okay, guys, let's I didn't call it mental health day or whatever, but that's what it was. And I said, so tell me what's going on. Anybody got any issues that, you don't have to get in too much detail, giving up all your privacy, but just tell us what we might be able to help you. And one of the players said, my girlfriend cheated on me, coach. And boy.
Oh, my God.
And I said, huh? He said, yeah, my girlfriend cheated on me, coach. See, this what happened was, we were going to this party. She asked me was I going. I said, no, I wasn't going, but I eventually went. And so I get there, guess what? She was some other dude.
Oh, man.
And you know what that did? 4 or 5 more hands went.
And they have all that going on, but they still supposed to go out there and perform.
They still supposed.
Had you not given them that outlet.
Right.
That's a very important outlet. I know my older son played at Timberview, graduated in 22. And Coach Dwayne Gregory at the time, phenomenal. He had Mental Mondays. And I thought that was very important. I don't know exactly what they did on Mental Mondays, but just the fact that on Mondays, they were going to have that time to do whatever he had the boys do. And that kind of fostered a culture of, I need to take care of myself mentally. And what you were doing with those boys actually was fostering, building relationships and where they trust you. They're like, okay, well, now I can go to coach and say, you know what, coach? Because you say, well, what's wrong? Why are you doing that? Why are you not listening? Coach, my girlfriend cheated on me. But you gave them that safe space to be able to do that, which is really important because at the end of the day, they're still children.
That's right. And so to end that conversation, so after we talked about all of that stuff, then we said, you know what, guys, today is Friday. We don't have a game this weekend or whatever. I want y'all to go home and be teenagers. Do whatever teenagers do besides getting in trouble.
Yes.
Anything positive. Just don't get in trouble. You go to a football game tonight, that's great. Don't get in trouble.
Yes.
Be a teenager.
That's important.
I said, I don't care if you touch a basketball before Monday. But like you say, a lot of times with the pressures that are placed on them from all these different outside entities, whether it be AAU, whether it be stuff on social media, which I know we're going to get into later, this, that, and the other. Go be a 15-year-old today.
Absolutely. You're not a pro player right now.
Right.
So that's not your job. You're not making money for it. I know we're trying to get there, but allow them to have those outlets. Allow them to play the video games, to go with friends, to go to the prom and the homecoming. Right. Like, you shouldn't shame a child because they want to experience different memories in high school because they missed the AAU practice to go to the prom. They'll never get that moment back again. And let's say they don't make it to the next level, and then I've missed out on childhood memories, hoping to accomplish something that I didn't accomplish.
Wow. And we talking about how you making me go back to my days when I played. So in the 9th grade, I was playing Pop Warner football. I didn't want to play for my high school team because they were trash.
Okay.
And I was playing Pop Warner football, which was really big in that time. And my team had won the right to go play in New York.
Okay, that's huge.
Huge. Basketball season had started for the school. Now, I'm going to play school basketball, right? Yeah. So this coach of mine decided to have a scrimmage in practice, right? So we're scrimmaging, and I had missed a day of practice. Well, let me back. So I missed a day of practice because I was really sick. My mom said, "You're not going to school.
Right.
You're not going to
Take
practice.
care of yourself."
I got to get yourself healthy so you can be ready for the game on Tuesday."
Absolutely.
It was a Saturday practice. So come Monday, I come to school. He mad because I didn't come to practice Saturday. Tuesday, I don't start. Wednesday, I'm out of the starting lineup. So now here we are in practice. He got me on the second team, and we playing the first team. So you know, I'm finna tear these dudes up, right? And so we beat them. And you know how kids are. We rubbing it in. We walk into the locker room, talking. And so one of the players on the first team started cussing us out. And, you know, we start cussing back.
Absolutely.
So we going back and forth. Coach come around the corner. He said, hey, what is all this going on here? I said, Coach, get your boy, man. He just mad because we just beat them.
Yeah. He running his mouth.
He said, I want to see both of y'all in my office right now. So we go in his office. And he said, you know, back then they could paddle you.
Right. Oh, yeah, they could.
So he went over and got the paddle. He came back in there and he said, look, we're not going to have this on this team, blah, 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 blah. He said, so y'all's punishment for what y'all just did is 3 swats. And I was like, Coach, I didn't do anything wrong. I wasn't cussing. He was doing all the cussing, blah, blah, blah. I said, Coach, respectfully, I can't take that punishment. He said, well, if you don't take this punishment, I'm kicking you off the team.
Oh, wow.
Now, mind you, I done missed my trip to New York because of basketball.
Right.
So I said, well, Coach, you got to take that up with my mother. He said, okay, get out of my office.
Wow.
So now I'm out the office. He won't let me back in to call my mom, tell her to come pick me up. So I had to walk 2 or 3 blocks up the street to a phone, pay phone, you know.
Yeah.
I had no
Yeah,
cell
there
phone.
were no cell phones then.
To call my mom to tell her to come get me. And my mom was working.
Wow.
So she had to shut down the barbershop to come get me,
Right.
to bring me home. And then when I told her what happened, so the next day she went up to the school.
Oh, of course.
And she said to the coach, she says, Coach, now you made him miss his trip to New York. And now you're going to kick him off the team because of something somebody else did? There is no other type of punishment that you can give him? He said, well, the only way he can get back on this team is he's going to have to run sprints every day after practice for a week. I said, man, I don't have a problem doing that. But I wasn't going to allow you, especially the anger that you showed in that coach's office with the paddle, because he took that paddle and he hit it really hard on the
Oh, yeah.
No, y'all gonna power. And I'm like, I can't let this man hit me like
That's
that.
not gonna happen. Yeah.
Not with that kind of anger, right?
No.
So I was like, man. So anyway, she told him, you can't do both of those things. You're going to have to either. And my mom was a little woman, and she had that purse cocked on her, sitting right there on her table, and she was looking at him. She put her hand on her hip. And I remember when we went to the classroom, because she went to the classroom, she was looking in, he was looking at her. She said,
yeah, come on out of there. We need to have a conversation.
yeah, we need to have a
We
conversation.
need to have a conversation.
Yeah, you didn't.
So you done already missed the trip, and then now you're on the second team because you were sick. Those things you can't control. And I think that as coaches, sometimes we just forget that real life happens outside of the field, the court, wherever we are. Real life is going to happen. And be a human at some point in time and say, you know what? I don't have to take everything from them.
Right.
And you brought up illness, but even when athletes are injured,
Right.
they lose their spot. Somebody else get that opportunity to step up, and then you're like, well, I got to earn my way back. But how do you earn your way back if you're on the second team, where you may even be on the third team, so you may not even get to practice? So you're just standing there, you're doing drills and standing there watching, and then you get a few minutes in the game. So how do we really earn our way back? And then you say, well, I don't like your demeanor on the bench. I don't like this and I don't like that. They're children. At what point are you going to say, you know what? Let me allow kids just to be kids.
And see, that's one of the things, and that's why I probably get upset sometimes. Well, I know I get upset sometimes when people attack my ability to coach and manage kids.
Absolutely.
Because what I did also, and a lot of people don't know this, is one year I was working on my master's in health education. And I always wanted to know what's going, because I really was never hurt, and missed games for being hurt.
Right.
So I wanted to know what goes through an athlete's mind from once he gets diagnosed with what's wrong,
Absolutely.
through the surgery, through the rehab, and to back to the court. Because most of the time we got the kids when they 85 to 100%, and that's all we know.
Right.
Because what we do, go to the trainer.
That's it.
Go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Go to the trainer.
That's it.
So I spent the whole summer in an internship with an orthopedic surgeon. And I told him what my plan was. I said, my plan is for me to be in the clinical when the people come in and say, well, I hurt my knee. We do the x-rays or MRIs and find out what's going on, to the actual surgeries, to the rehab. And I spent the whole summer doing that. So I saw probably 50 or 60 surgeries, anywhere from knee replacements to ACL tears, to shoulder surgeries, because at first it was just the knee stuff and
Right.
ankle stuff that I was looking at. And then he asked me, he said, hey, would you want to see a hip replacement?
Yeah.
I'm like, sure, just broaden my horizon. Yeah, let's do it.
Absolutely.
So I understand the process.
Absolutely.
I remember when a former Kimball guy came in, had hurt his knee, and I was there the day we did the x-rays, and then they did the MRI, and then when the MRI came back to the doctor, he said, this boy's knees look like he's 40 years old.
Oh, man.
And he was like 21.
Sad.
And I'm like, wow.
It does a lot to your body physically, which also begin to affect you mentally. The minute an athlete is hurt, like you said, you go to the trainer, you go to the doctor take you off for 4 to 6 weeks, you come back, you feel like you're not even a part of the team. You're sitting over to the side. They say, hey, pick up the balls or pick up this and
Run the clock.
You're not even a part of the team anymore,
Right.
but at one point you was a part of the starting lineup.
Right.
So a lot of that, I'm working on my doctoral degree and I'm writing my dissertation on how injuries affect athletes mentally. And because it has a lot to do with how they, respond and how they react. And sometimes it brings on depression and anxiety, increased anxiety.
How does the pressure to perform affect athletes' mental health? And both during the competition
Okay.
and afterwards.
Okay.
Plus, I want to throw in one more wrinkle. One more wrinkle. The off-season part. Because we mostly talking about high school or college people right now. We're not talking about professionals as much. But in high school, you have your season, you have your preseason, your regular season, and then the off-season.
Absolutely. Okay.
So talk to me. How does mental health affect all that stuff?
The pressure to perform is, I think, the number one thing that affects an athlete's mindset, because they're not only wanting to perform for themselves, but it's for everybody to say, oh, don't let it be a big game. Everybody get in free with a student ID. So now my anxiety is through the roof because I see these peers on a daily basis, or JUCO, it's levels to the colleges, but even Division I, Division II, you're in the gym with many people, or it's being streamed online. All of that plays a factor because it's like, you know what, I have to do my best. If not, I'm going to be embarrassed, or they're going to talk about me, or they're going to pull out a phone, and then now it's going to be on loop. My shoe fell off, and I done slipped down, and that's a natural thing. But just because the entire gym laughed, and it's on video, and now people have put music to it, it plays over and over in the athlete's head, and they can't let it go. Or when you go, let's say we go into the off season, at this point, you still have other coaches or other people talking about what you did last season or what you didn't do. I saw you out there, you didn't do X, Y, and Z. Now you want to come in here and do all of this. Well, why are we still holding on to the past? Give them that opportunity to grow. But I think the pressures of performance weighs heavily on an athlete because it's not only the pressures from the coaches, but sometimes it's pressures from the parents as well. Sometimes I have to check myself as a mama. I'm like, what? You too big to be out there not getting no rebounds. What you doing? Right. So, you have to make sure you check yourself because you don't know how it's weighing on that child or just on that athlete in general.
Right. Because I think as a parent, sometimes we know what triggers a certain thing. Because like if you see your son or daughter out there and they not playing up to par,
Yes.
you know, if you say certain things, you remind them,
Absolutely.
set off a trigger. Like, you know, everybody can't do that.
No.
But sometimes I can see how all of that is power. If mama's saying it,
Right.
daddy's saying it, coach on me, my teammates on me.
Everybody. And we also...
and y'all wonder why they can't perform.
Exactly. And we have to get to a place too with this generation of children and just millennials and Gen X and all of them and Z's and everything.
Yes, yeah.
They are so different.
Yeah, they are.
The days of shaming them to make them perform, that's over.
Right.
You can't do that.
Right.
You have to talk to them with some level of respect that you're wanting. And they are in tune with their mental health. So if it don't feel good, they're gonna let you know, or they're gonna go do something else, and they're not gonna be a part of what you have going on.
I've had my daughter tell me, Dad, that's a little aggressive.
Exactly, like you do, or they say you doing too much.
Yeah.
I need you to bring it down.
I said, but we couldn't have said nothing like
No,
no.
just
We've
get on
been
somewhere and
trying.
sit down.
You know, is that tooth loose?
Yeah, right. Because you done got knocked in the face.
Right. You know, we were back then. We didn't even engage or hang around adult conversations.
Absolutely.
You couldn't even do that.
You're
I mean,
right.
But you right on it when
They're
you say these kids today, you
are
cannot.
different. No, they are different.
So my term I used to always use is, guys, we're gonna coach you up hard, but we're gonna love on you just as much.
But that's the thing, though. We have to make sure that we are putting the same number of deposits in, if not more,
withdrawals.
as withdrawals. But we have some coaches who sometimes just don't know how to do that. And they are taking, and not putting anything in. And then they're wondering why they're not getting the best from their athletes. But I'm going to take it a step further. That's when it's our jobs as parents to make sure that bucket is full before they leave. So when the world and other people start dipping into it, they have enough to sustain them.
That's good stuff. So let's talk a little bit about performance and anxiety expectations. Okay. And we all know what expectations are. This is something that we're trying to, we expect you to do this or this, that, and the other. But anxiety, because people use that word a lot.
Yeah.
And by definition, it's the feeling of worry, nervousness, typically about an intimate event with an uncertain outcome. I said a whole lot to say, worrying about the future.
Pretty much. We live in a time where we are never present. We worried about something that already happened in the past over and over, or we're worried about what we're going to do next. We do not take the time to just be still and be in the moment and be present. Stay in the present, because when I tell you, time is the most precious resource that we have.
Man. And as I always say, it's the one thing everybody has the same amount of.
Absolutely.
And
we take for granted.
We all have 24 hours in a day.
We do.
It's what you do with yours that makes the difference.
That makes the difference. And I'm a stickler about mine. You can waste my money, you can waste my resources, but don't waste my time.
I got you.
And when it comes to just being present and making sure with that anxiety, we have to use mindfulness. That's a technique that people are like, what is mindfulness? Be still. Recognize what's around you.
So our parents, when they used to say that, bust it out.
Sit down, be still. That's mindfulness. It's just a fancy word. Sit down and just recognize what's going on around you. When you're on that bench, take those things in. When you're in the moment, in the playing time or on the track, wherever you are, be mindful of where you are. Those are just simple coping skills and coping techniques that we all need in our toolbox. Think about if you're driving, you drive the same route every day. Most of the time we miss what's going on around us because we are so used to doing the same thing over and over.
I didn't even know that was there.
Exactly. And you're like, I didn't even see that. When they do that? It's been there 2 years. But you just...
How do you get there? I don't know the street, but I know how to get there.
Exactly. And sometimes we're on autopilot, just waiting till I'm just trying to make it to varsity. I'm trying to make it to start. And then you get to those points and then you miss it. Then you're like, oh, now I want to have 45 points in the game. Now I want to, you're always just, and I'm not saying not to have goals. Those are important, but we still have to be present and in the moment and just be still. That's where that anxiety comes from, because we're always worrying about what's next. How can I top what I just did?
Right.
Sit down somewhere and just be still and enjoy where you are in that moment.
You just brought up another thought in my head. I remember the first time I went to Austin, when they used to play the state tournament in Austin. And I think it was my second year in coaching, and the principal at the high school said, I want you to go down there because I want you to see and I said, I've never been to the UIL state tournament. And I went down there and I saw those people. Back then, they were parking anywhere they could park, running, trying to, people out there, I got 2, anybody need 3, anybody got 4, I got 6 tickets over here, I got this. And I'm like, for high school, that's what we're doing?
It's huge.
And so I walked into the arena and I was like, man, look at this. And then watched the game and I said, you know what? I want to get here one day as a coach. That's my aspiration, right? And then I got there 4 years later. I'm there.
Right.
But what I didn't talk into fruition was I want to go down there and win it.
I want to win. So now
I'm
visualizing that. I have to, yes.
So I get there and I lose, and the first thing you do when the game is over, back then they used to run, put a mic in your face. And the guy said, he said, Coach Bacon, so first Final Four appearance, how does it feel? I said, well, I'll be back. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, I left something. He said, what are you talking about? You left something. I said, I lost, so I'm going home, right? I say, so I'm not going to win the championship. So I'll be back to get the trophy.
Oh, yeah.
I knew I wanted to get here, but I never said anything about winning it.
Yes.
And now I'm speaking it into existence.
Right.
Next time I come here, I'm winning it. So the next 2 times I went, won it.
You won it.
Won it.
Absolutely.
And
Visualization. That's the fancy word for it.
Man,
You're visualizing what you want to happen, but you had to play how many games to get there? I know last year, I think, some of the kids played, they were 36-something games or 40 games, but did we take care of their mental along the way?
Right. Okay, so we've already talked a little bit about the anxiety and the expectation, and you talked about a few strategies. How can coaches and their support staff create a more conducive environment for the athletes to manage these expectations and cope with the stress of competition?
It all starts with the coaches. The culture of that team starts with the leader.
I agree.
You've heard the saying, the tail is always going to follow the head. So I think when coaches just set that expectation of coming to, if it's not the head coach, someone on that staff that they feel comfortable enough going to that address those mental health concerns or address how they're feeling. We have a trainer, we have managers to make sure they have water. We have the coaches and then the assistant coaches. Sometimes the assistant coaches are not skilled in that area. Well, then bring in someone else from the outside. You mentioned with the college athletes, they have that support when they get to, depending on the campus, they'll either have campus counseling. Some kids feel comfortable enough to go there. Some don't because they have students that work in there. But then those Power 5 Division I's, they're actually going to have a sports psychologist there for those students.
Right.
But in high school, we just need the high school coaches just to even encourage the kids to go to the counselor. I know one school in Dallas particular, well, in the suburb area, they would bring the counselor to the practice. And the counselor would talk to them about careers, GPAs, but then also just the mental health aspect of it. When you're looking at your program, whatever that may be, include making sure you're taking care of your kids mentally, but then also those additional supports as in career counseling as well. Because now we have to be honest with ourselves. Not everybody is going to play professional anything. Some may be going to work a job, and that's fine, or they're playing for a hobby, but make sure that we're tapping into all of that for our kids.
You know what? You're making me feel like I knew what I was doing.
I think you did. You're one of the greatest.
Because I've had this lady on the show. Her name is Robin Ford. She's a career readiness coach.
Wonderful, yeah.
At DeSoto. And I had her come in, and she, not only is she good, she had their attention. And she started talking to them about GPAs and
Absolutely.
tests, and have you done this yet? It was so many things that she said, have you done yet? Like, well, what grade are you in? You're a senior and you haven't done?
Exactly.
You know, she called it a gym journey bag.
I love it.
What's in your gym journey
See?
bag?
Yeah. What you doing?
You know, yeah, what you doing?
What you doing?
You're a senior?
Yeah. It's,
Spring semester and you haven't applied for what?
yeah, that's a problem.
That is a problem.
Because a lot of the athletes think I'm going to play basketball, football, I'm going to run track in college. That's great, but we still have to do all the things to get there.
And I think coaches have to stay in tune with all of this stuff too, because even though now you don't have to have an SAT
Right.
or ACT score to qualify for athletics, you still have to meet the school admissions
do.
requirement.
You
And if
sure
it
do.
requires that anybody here has to have a 1200 or 21 or 22
Right.
on these tests, no matter what, you can't get in.
You're not getting in. Nope.
You're just not. Well, I thought the rule changed. No, I thought I ain't gonna get it done.
Student athlete. You have to remember that.
Right. Transitioning from your sport to not playing, like transitioning from coaching to
Oh, what you gonna do?
Wait a minute,
What you gonna
let me
do?
get up here and lay that high five. Because everybody asks that question. Coach, what you gonna
What
do
you gonna do
now?
now?
Well, here's the thing. If you watch my first show, some of the coaches that was on my first show and people that I was close to back in the day, they'll tell you all had the opportunity to say one or two words to describe Coach Bacon. And one of them was prepared. That came from George Dixon.
You had a plan.
He said that. And confidence.
Okay.
So, did y'all think I was just going to retire and have nothing to do? If you did, you sadly mistaken. I had planned an exit. I had an exit plan. And I had multiples, which means if this one didn't work, had another one. And then sometimes things like a podcast may present itself for you to give you
there
something
you
to
go.
do.
There you
And
go.
I look forward to it. But tell us, transitioning from sports. So athletes often face challenges transitioning out of their sport and their careers. How can they prepare mentally for this transition? And what support systems are essential?
I think you hit on it. You have to have a plan.
Okay.
And that plan starts as early as middle school. I know as a school counselor, when I was a school counselor, I would do high school registration for our 8th graders. And we would have our athletes in there and I would say, hey, we're going to take this career matchmaker to see where you fall. Or if you already know what you want to do later in life, what is it that you want to do? And they say, oh, miss, I'm going to the NFL. I'm going to play professional, sports. That's great. But we need to have a plan in the event that you get hurt, in the event that life doesn't take that path for you. How will you be a productive citizen? How will you pay your bills? And I think you have to have a plan. My last two, my kid now and the high schooler now, and then the one right before him that graduated in 22, they both I paid for them to have a college advisor. Not that I'm not capable of doing it. Right now, we just don't have the time. And that college advisor, that's what they do. They make sure that he has a resume, that he hit those deadlines to be able to get into college. The son that's playing JUCO ball now, he took a year off and was able to go to the college that he wanted to go to when basketball didn't go his way and the recruiting didn't go the way he wanted it to go. He took a year off, but had academic money to be able to do that. So I think giving your kid that opportunity to have another plan in place helps them mentally versus feeling like, I don't have anything else. I put all of my eggs in one basket. And at this point, what do I do? Who am I? So my son who's he's a junior now in high school. Yes, he want to play collegiate level basketball. But if that doesn't work out, or if he's blessed to play all 4 years, after that, he's majored in criminal justice. And his goal has always been to go into law enforcement. He's like, I'm gonna be the police. So he has a plan. I've always said, how are you going to make money? How are you going to take care of yourself? Because you can't live here
Right.
for the rest of your life.
Right.
You got to be a productive citizen. So I think when you have a plan in place, but also have somebody to help you craft and draft that plan, that way you don't always have your eggs in one basket and you're not feeling that I'm depressed or my anxiety is through the roof because now I don't know what I'm going to do.
And I don't want to, for me, it was always the fear of being a disappointment. I never want to let my teammates down, never want to let my coach down, my parents. So I was that kid who never wanted to let anybody down.
You have a lot of kids like that, similar to those. Look at kids who run on a relay. Sometimes those kids who run on a relay run faster in that relay than they do in their individual race. And my daughter was one of those children. And I said, how can you go out there and split a 56 or a 55, but in your open 400, you running a 58, 59? She was like, because I don't want to let them down. I don't want to be the one that lose.
Right.
But have that same mindset for yourself. It's all mental and it's all connected, but it just comes down to a mindset shift and being intentional about your thought process.
I like that word, being intentional.
Intentional. That's it.
They say people don't usually plan to fail, they just fail to plan.
That's exactly it. And I tell them kids that all the time.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's what one of the things I thought about as a coach. You know, you hear comments. I try not to pay attention to comments, but when you say coach, I know you're talking to me.
Right.
I'm listening to you because I want to hear what you got to say,
absolutely.
and I might want to have a rebuttal.
Right.
You know, but when you say things like, when the kid's missing free throw, do y'all practice free throw? Are you serious? Do you think we don't practice free throw so we can miss them in the game?
That's what people yell.
Man, they must don't never practice free throws in practice.
Right.
You know, he turned the ball over, get him out. He this, he that.
And that's what you hear. And if you hear it, the kids hear it.
Yeah, they do. And they don't realize sometimes, and you know, I used to have this in my parent meeting, you don't realize some of the things that you may say may create division in the team.
Absolutely.
Because I don't care how many kids you got on a team, all of them aren't best friends.
No. Most teams don't even like each other.
You know,
they're just out there.
So with that being said, you say this about him, he hear it, now I don't like your mom.
Yep.
I don't like your dad.
And that's a problem.
And that's again, we back to the mental.
Right. Also, who's leading them though? So if you have a coach that's an effective leader, sometimes the coach is the problem because they're not leading their staff and they're not leading the athletes because you have to be able to make sure that you're fostering those relationships because you're going to spend too much time together.
And I spoke to a coaches group. I think I said this before on one of my shows. Humble ISD basketball coaches from middle school to high school, and they have 5 high schools. And I spoke to all of those coaches. I had a really good meeting with them. And one of the things that Carlisa Dixon, who is the interim athletic director there, wanted me to cover was building a program. And I told them, I said, just like building anything, you know you got to have a strong foundation.
That's
I said, but guess who is the foundation? You.
Yes.
So if you shaky, and you weak, and you unstable, the rest of that's that. So if you wondering why your program is suffering,
sometimes you have to self-reflect, and I think that's hard for a lot of not even just coaches, but adults to do. Period, because you got to look within and say, okay, how could I have done this differently?
Right.
And you know, as a parent, I say to my kids all the time, let's self-reflect on this moment. Don't come to me and say, oh, they didn't pass the ball. I had a bad game. Let's look at the stats. Let's look at the data. Let's look at the game film.
Right.
What could you have done differently? It's not always about everybody else. And at the end of the day, you can only control you. So
go back to them 2 circles.
That's it. Circle of control.
Right.
You know, so
Right.
you have to make sure you focus on that and control what you can control.
Wow. So this mental health thing is real. And we're going to do a part 2. So stay tuned. Be on the lookout for part 2 coming up next. Thanks.